Welcome, everyone. We're back. Round 3 at Suzuka International Racing Course. The sports car series continues rolling on through the calendar. I'm Whelpcakes. In the booth with me for the first time, casting with me, is none other than Finicini. Finicini, welcome to the show. And yeah, how are you doing today?
Thank you very much. Doing well. Thank you very much for having me. Happy to be here to be in the booth on a really rainy day out there at Suzuka for all the people that are on track and getting in their practice laps, what's left of practice before they go into their qualifying. Thrilled to be here. So, thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I like wet weather races. I think they bring out, the best or the worst, but probably the most exciting versions of some of the drivers that we're going to see tonight. What is your experience with wet weather racing?
A fair bit at this point, both in iRacing and in other simulators, and a little bit of real life wet weather driving, spirited driving, I would say at that point. Not quite racing on a circuit, but not quite not racing on. Anyway, I love wet weather racing. It brings out the true technical abilities of every racer and where their actual ability to react to how a car is performing in less than ideal conditions and maximizing their times through the ability to understand and react to the evolving situation of a wet weather race.
Yeah, I think the unsure nature of how track conditions are going to affect these drivers between qualifying and the race is going to be exciting for everyone at home to watch, because people are going to be trying to figure out things in real time, like you were saying, and that provides some of the spiciest action for the viewers at home. So for everyone joining us, we got the new Pro and AM Championship going into round number 3. We'll get to the point standings here in a moment, because we got some exciting battles happening between the classes, and especially in a GT4 in particular. But we're going to be doing a 90-minute race here at Suzuka. We're going to have a single competition yellow flag at the 20-minute mark. And as always, we are running fuel-adjusted tanks for both LMP3 and GT4, 60% for LMP3, 50% for GT4. Suzuka International Racing Circuit is it's a historical track. It's known for really good multi-class racing. Finn, what's your experience with Suzuka? Is it one of your favorites? Is it one of your most hated?
I have a love-hate relationship with Suzuka. It really depends on the machinery I'm driving around it. In open wheelers or prototype machinery with a lot of downforce, I'm one of my favorites. Absolute blast to drive, running through the S's, coming back down 130R, so much fun. In tin top machinery, GT4s like we have here on track, or GT3s, is something I cannot seem to get right.
Yeah, it's a tough circuit, even in the best conditions, I think. For me, for the longest time, it was one of my favorite circuits in all of racing, and that was mostly just because it was like one of the circuits I got access to via like Gran Turismo and stuff like that when I was growing up as a kid. Yeah, in Project Cars 2, ACC, iRacing, have loved it. Ever since I've kind of been part of the broader sim racing community, I've definitely found some other tracks that I kind of grown to love more than Suzuka, but I really do enjoy Suzuka for it being both a power circuit that also has very unique technical challenges for the drivers. And speaking of the drivers, we've already got qualifying underway here, and it looks like we've got the 66 Porsche Cayman. I believe that is Sean Sullivan out on track in GT4 AM, and he's going to get his outlap knocked out before he goes for a qualifying flyer. Qualifying around here, Finn, I think it's going to be pretty tricky.
Certainly will be.
I'm kind of curious, like for a race specifically in these conditions. My gut tells me go for the banker lap first, get something on the board before you start to push.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think
go ahead.
Oh, I apologize. I think I am in the same boat with you about making that banker lap first, taking it easy, knowing where you can push the car without going too far, especially given the fact that it's rainy conditions. There's no driving line that's been established yet on this version of the track because of quality. So you're kind of navigating those wet spatches to try to find where you can then push on that second lap. So
Indeed. Taking a look right now, we do have William Lewis starting his first flying lap now. So and with this, we're going to have GT4 runners underway for qualifying. I'm actually looking through the data right now, and I don't see any LMP3 drivers that have finished a lap out yet. It looks like we might be getting close, though.
yes, I don't see any ones that have completed theirs, but we have a bunch that are on their current first, that banker lap that we've been talking about. So
Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
be interesting to see where initial times get posted.
Indeed. Ryan Bouchane right now going purple in sectors 4 and 5. And I believe that is just relative to the outlap times. I don't think we've got real data yet to make a decision. We do have a newcomer here in the pro category, Vincent Leroux. Looks like he's getting ready to start his flying lap as he goes through last curve and down the start-finish straightaway. I'm already... go ahead.
I was going to say, Vince LaRue is a good friend of mine from my endurance team, so I'll be interested to see where he kind of slots into the LMP3 Pro category on his first week out. Picked an interesting week, decided he was like, I'm going to do this one. I'm like, I don't know that this was a great one because it's Suzuka in the rain, but by all means, have fun out there. So I think he'll...
Indeed, it is going to be interesting. And just checking right now, Zachary Fisher setting his personal best. We're going to see where his times start slotting in as he's getting ready to go on his first flyer. Ethan Hamlet, LMP3 series leader, currently going through Spoon, getting set up to go into Sector 3 right now. Ethan's just been an absolute force to be reckoned with. Yeah, I don't know your take on Ethan, but the kid's just a juggernaut. So
Absolutely. No, I can't agree with you more. Comes out every week, sets blistering qualifying times, follows it up with consistent race pace. I'm really interested to see if he'll go for his third pole win, hat trick, if you will.
Yeah.
In that category. So.
Yeah, into Casio Triangle right now and setting up for last curve. He does have purple times right now in sectors 4 and 5. He's getting ready to come across the line, and he's going to set a time. And he's going to post to 2:27.4. So that's going to be the time to beat.
Mm-hmm. And that banker lap that we've been talking about, I think I've seen faster out of him in the practice, both yesterday in the open practice as well as earlier this evening. But it'll be interesting to see how much he improves on that in his next qualifying.
And with that, William Lewis coming across the line, I think he must have been validated. He didn't actually post a time, but Matt Pyle did a 2:40.11, and then we've got Jaden Ledbetter and Paul Miles also posting times right now. I'm going to switch over to autopilot right now while these times are starting to come in for the first flyers. The 2:27.4 that Ethan has set, that looks like that's going to be tough for Jaden right now with the banker lap. He's currently, what is that, about 9/10 back? So if Ethan's got pace in hand, it's going to be rough.
Yep, that it certainly is. Unless he gets a really good second lap here, it'll be hard for Jaden to kind of usurp that top spot, the pole position there. And that's also if Ethan doesn't set a faster lap with his second.
So we should have qualifying indicators down on screen for folks to follow along with. Got some more times getting ready to come in.
A lot of people I'm seeing in the GT4 category having in the first laps of their qualifying runs. I'm curious to see how many of those are able to post time in the second on their second lap.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be tough right now. Corey Lobner in the 41, top of the timesheets in GT4 with a 2:39.36, with Ryan Bouchane also with the 2:39.96. Interesting. So Corey's going to get provisional pole in GT4 because he was the first car to hit that time. Like you were saying, lots of invalid laps. The number of off tracks that I'm seeing, kind of eye-popping, and does look like Ethan jumps to a 224.41.
Okay.
All right, so the banker gave him a little bit of confidence, and that confidence is all he needed to just set himself apart.
Getting that 3-second gap, something we've been talking about a lot.
Yep.
And going into this weekend, it's going to be interesting to see how much that converts into race pace as well, because we're seeing kind of all this in a vacuum right now, and how will it affect his, how will he, keep that pace and that momentum if he can. I'm pretty sure he can, based on what we've seen here. But it'll be interesting to see how that translates.
Indeed. So looking right now, Tanner Schiff in the 51 jumping to the top of GT4 with a 36.25, which is a good time over Jared Jones. Jared Jones posting some pretty good numbers in the AMG as well, 237.21. So the spread across the categories does seem very wide, but something we've been talking about leading up to this race, leading up to the broadcast, you and me, is that when it comes to point spreads in the actual standings, it's awfully close.
It certainly is. Across all 4 categories, we have, a pretty good margin that if somebody really gets a good finish here, which I think will entirely be based on just being patient and consistent, they will absolutely jump ahead of people that they're battling in the GT4 Pro. Basically, from 2nd to 6th, all have a shot at becoming the points leader after this race. Stephen West is not with us. And the same almost goes for the GT4 AM category as well as the LMP3 AM category.
Yeah, it is really close in these categories, and I'm thinking that normally pole position in these kinds of races really sets the tone for how the race is going to unfold. But with the mixed conditions that we're dealing with, or the wet conditions, I'm really thinking that it's more about survival and more about making sure that you're consistent in your race. And as we bring qualifying to a close, that pole position time of a 224.41 looks like that was good enough for pole. Let me see if I can actually get the results data pulled up, because sometimes SDK is really good at getting the data. Showing? I see some qualifying results. I do not see all of them. So let's see if we can. Oh, I see what happened here. It set me to P16 by default. Don't know why. Let's jump over to LMP3 category and just pull up those results right now. And there you go. Ethan Hamlin, top of the timesheets, a 224.407, and Mark Hansen, less than a tenth. And then LaRoe in the 222, 0.8 off. I mean, that's within a shot. Like, you have some drama on track in terms of traffic for a race leader like Ethan Hamlin, and even LaRoe's in it.
Yes.
So that's going to be very interesting. And then you got Dave Chavez, Jaden Ledbetter, and Paul Miles rounding out the top 6 in LMP3. Let's take a look at the GT4 runners, because this is what you were talking about quite a bit before the broadcast, is how close this is. And we've got Scott at the top with a 235.521. Scott's really strong in GT4 this season.
The points data seems to be also concurring with that. It's going to be interesting to see whether he will shoot to the top, or Jarrett Jones, who's only 1.6 seconds behind Tanner Schiffner, is splitting the two of them with the 0.7 off of that pole position in GT4. Going to be a bit of an interesting one when we get underway, and if the consistency of that pace between the three of them stays the same, or if, as they find time in various places, someone gets the jump on it. Again, these are all battling for that top spot in the overall standings.
Yeah, this is going to be a really good race. I'm looking forward to it. Multi-class racing around Suzuka for me always seems to deliver. The thing that I really like in particular about multi-class racing around here is the technical section in Sector 2 on this track. If you're looking at a traditional 3-sector layout, we're looking at sectors 3 and 4 if you're going by iRacing split. When you're getting into the Degners and the hairpin, very interesting because the speed differentials between the two classes, it's going to be tricky. And I'm seeing a McLaren going Formula Drift on, I believe that was that 300R? Where,
I believe that was 300R. I think
yeah.
that was Mark Cohen who decided to take the Formula Drift line through there. Really easy to do with all this rain is to turn these cars into drift machines.
Mhm.
It's really not great on lap time, though, from what I've found.
Yeah. And the other thing is too is the nature of how the track is set up here at Suzuka. Lots of curves that are running on camber, off camber, and that change in camber mid corner can catch people out, especially in these wet conditions. I see some people in chat talking. We got Gene Cardoso, Jaden's there, and Chris is stopping by to say hello. Chris is doing the Bathurst 1000 right now. Hope you guys are having some good luck this time. Heard you guys got wrecked out the first time, but fingers crossed for you.
Yes, certainly. Fingers crossed on that one, because that is a brutal race. Even almost more so, I feel like, than Suzuka at certain points because of the natural height change on the mountain there. Oh boy.
I really like Bathurst, and I love V8 supercars. Probably my favorite actual like non-open wheel series. Was a huge Shane Van Gisbergen fan for a long time, and really loving to see him in NASCAR right now. Kind of hoping that he continues to have a good showing there, and I'd like to see him like really like upset the standings, pull some wins, maybe even win a championship or two. That'd be kind of cool.
I think it'd be very fun to see. I feel like that's something that always makes both NASCAR and other things like that better, as pulling in drivers from other disciplines of motorsport and the kind of more oval nature to see how they, end up adding their knowledge and technical abilities to that world.
Man, the Watkins Glen race was so spicy. If anyone has not watched the YouTube, go find the Watkins Glen finish. That was such a good race. Back to Suzuka though. We're in the warm-up period. We're going to be going to the grid here in a moment. I just want to remind everybody that we're dealing with a 90-minute race with the competition yellow is going to fly at the 20-minute mark. We've got the fuel tank adjustments. That's going to be playing a factor here, although I'm wondering how much fuel people are going to be saving, given that we're going to be seeing slower lap times. And when it comes to tire changing, I don't suspect people are going to be changing tires all that much.
I would hardly, unless you get a bit of contact and damage to where that is a necessity. I would expect that nobody's going to be changing tires and just taking fuel on these pit stops. Probably going to be a two-stopper still for most of these. While they're going to save fuel, it's not going to be that much given the power, all the good number of straight line sections we still have.
Yep.
Even in the rain.
That or could be seeing some people that don't have their engine and throttle maps set correctly, and could be seeing a lot of wheel spin, which is just going to burn extra fuel and not actually move you forward in the process. So we'll see. We'll see. As always, for anyone that is interested in being a part of the show, be sure and check us out on simgrid.com. Just search for Track Limits Racing in the host section. Should have all of the socials on that site as well. So if you want to be a part of the Discord as well, you can find the link there. I think actually the chat commands still work, but in the event that they don't, you can definitely find all that information on our SimGrid page. As you can see, 20 degrees, overcast skies, and moist. 9 kilometer an hour wind. Don't really have a direction on that, but iRacing doesn't really model wind that well.
Okay, it's not a big enough number to where I think I'm going to be too worried about it, regardless of what car I'm in.
Yeah. Um, as you can see, Suzuka International Racing Circuit, in wet conditions, it's going to be pretty spicy. Back to the qualifying data while we talk about more to do with the, let's look a little bit more at the quali data and talk a little bit more about the points again. So Ethan Hamlin being on pole position here kind of doesn't surprise anybody. What does surprise me, though, and I think you're in the boat as well, Finn, is Mark Hansen and Leroux are not that far off, and with the margins that tight, I think Ethan might have a challenge on his hands.
It definitely looks like it, at least on paper, from the qualifying results, that he's going to at least have a little bit of challenge trying to keep them behind him in this race, especially during the early laps up until probably that competition caution. And if he can keep them behind him, he might have a good chance of running away with it. Or it's entirely possible they find even more pace than he does, and he's actually having to fight for a little bit on for that third victory.
Yeah, were you expecting Vincent to get that close? First race?
I'm not surprised, given what I know of him and how good of a driver he is. He spent a lot of time in the LMP3. He's very familiar with it. So I'm part of me is not surprised. I am a little surprised how close Ethan is to everybody else, given what I've seen of his time and lap data. So it's interesting to see, but it definitely a strong showing for Leroux all the same, and excited to see how he turns that into where he turns that into in the race.
Yeah.
So.
And with that, so we got pros in P1, P2, P3. Now, Hansen and Vincent. So Hansen is sitting currently 4th in LMP3. We don't have Robert Lewis here, so Hansen could be in a good position to leap into 3rd in the LMP3 category.
Potentially 2nd if Jaden, unless Jaden gets a pretty solid result. There's also a potential there.
Yeah, I was actually about to say that. So
oh,
the
sorry.
thing, no, you're good. You're not stealing anyone's thunder here.
All right.
So the thing is that Jaden, really not too far away. I mean, 15 points is not that much, and it's really, this race is going to be down to survival in a big way. The one thing that I will say that might help Jaden out in this picture is that we do not have a significant number of LMP3s in this race to begin with. So if he can, shenanigans happen, a crash, whatever, as long as he can stay relatively ahead of most of the Pro-Ams or the AM class, still got some good points on offer. In the amateur class, Gabe Chavez coming out 4th overall with Paul Miles in 6th.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be interesting because just looking at the data right here, there is 7 points separating these two right now. Mm-hmm. And Gabe is trying to chase down Milo, but yeah, Milo's no quitter. And Gabe though coming out with a strong time though bodes well for him being able to take the fight to Milo. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see how that works out.
That we will. It'll be interesting to see if Milo is able to find a little more pace to kind of keep up with Gabe in the first sector there, or just in general to see, because if he can, even if he finishes right behind Gabe, he still keeps himself pretty much within that same points range that he's currently at. It doesn't shrink by that much of a margin. But if Gabe shows a ton of pace, or there's more incidents that he can recover from, there's definitely going to be that gap will be closing pretty significantly, is my guess.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun race to watch between those two. Taking a look at some more of the data, let's talk about. Let me switch over now to GT4 real quick because we still got a little bit of time before the warm-up period's over. Again, Scott on top, not really surprising anybody. Scott's had really good pace pretty much all season. Let me get the standings pulled up now. So with Scott's in an interesting situation right now because Stephen Wallace is not here. But Ryan Beauchesne and Jared Jones are. So
as well as Tommy Kogan, sorry, as well as Tommy Kogan, who's not far behind him either.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that is
they
going
all-
to be that's going to be interesting. We've got a real tight battle here, as you were saying before. Scott showing up with 2-minute 35 pace in the wet looks pretty strong. I mean, 7/10 is close, but it looks like everybody else, if this is indicative of consistent pace, Scott might be sitting pretty in this race.
and that'll be interesting. The piece that will be the decider, I think, here is the consistency over the course of this 90 minutes. We have the rain. We have a lot of differing factors, especially as that racing line gets developed in the wet. I'm going to guess we'll see these times increase as well, but it'll be interesting to see how that consistency goes.
So it looks like Jaden. I can probably adjust that. Everybody's going to get a nice little look at the iRacing UI for a second, but I can shut that down. Actually, a really good point. I've not actually programmed my for rain. Maybe that's a little bit better. It's just not blasting people's eardrums. So anyway, Jaden, give me a thumbs up in chat if that sounds a little bit better, and let's get set up for the race. Let's put up data, and there we go.
All right.
Finn, this has been fun so far, sir. For everybody that doesn't know, I'm Whelp Cakes. Finicini's joining me in the booth for the first time. We're here for round 3 of the Sports Car Series, brought to you by Track Limits Racing. Finn, your first time in the broadcast booth with us. You've been streaming for a while now, so you definitely feel like you got your sea legs. Have you done very much broadcasting, or has it been mostly just race streaming?
So it's mostly been race streaming. I have done a little bit of broadcasting with GSRC here and there. And so I've got a little bit of sea legs. I've been streaming for a very long time in other sectors of the world as well, particularly tabletop role-playing games and the cool nerdiness of that sector. So definitely not, while I'm a little bit nervous, the nerves are definitely only that nice little low hum you kind of want in the background, because you don't want nothing, but you also don't want too much.
Yeah. But this is good.
And then, yes, as Jaden's explaining on the stream, fettuccine, not fettuccine, the pasta noodle.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, they are getting ready to start the formation lap. It looks like here at Suzuka we don't get the full warm-up lap, which I think is probably better for the audience. It's not going to be 5 minutes of downtime. But yeah, the LMP3s are going to pull away first, and I'm assuming that Scott's going to try and get a little bit of a gap going with the GT4 crowd as they head down the back stretch. Again, like we were talking about before the stream, Finn, Suzuka, for me, multi-class racing, the technical nature of it, I think it's a wonderful track for multi-class racing. In these wet conditions, I think it's going to be a handful, to say the least. And I think you would agree with that.
I definitely do agree with that, especially when we get around to the LMP3s having to pass through the lap traffic. It makes the gem of multi-class in the dry. I think it'll be probably one of the things that they'll be cursing a little bit under their breath as they're going around, is they have to find lines that'll probably take them through more water than they would otherwise have to, especially as that racing line goes.
All right, so we are getting set up. Finn, I got us focused in on Ethan as they're getting ready to go into Casio Triangle. So pace car should be going in momentarily, and then it's hold the field until they get to the go line, and then we are about to be underway for 90 minutes around Suzuka.
Pace car is in. They have that starting zone to get going underway. And it looks like they just took off.
Yep, looks like they are away. And man, look at the spray. there's
Yeah.
there's only 3 cars. Into
There
turn
are
1 we
probably a
go.
few.
Go
Yep,
ahead.
we'll see how many people go up ahead and lock up those brakes as we get into the first couple corners. Um, I'm interested to see how much we survive lap 1.
Everything looking okay so far. Going to the GT4s now that have already started their race. And Scott peeling away. Tanner Schiffner, Matt Pyle in the background as the spray is pretty crazy. Let's go back into the field now. Jump back towards William Lewis where he's at as they go through first curve and getting set up into the snake section. Looking through the data right now.
Not seeing anything too crazy.
One thing I do see is a Jared Jones jump into the pits.
It looks like I think he just started there. I don't see him disappearing into the pits as we got through the formation.
Indeed, indeed. So back to autopilot here as Gabe Chavez is. Oh nope, switches over. Oh, and we do have a spin here. Back in the background, was that Corey?
I believe it. No, it wasn't Corey. Let's see, just been there. I think it was Liam Haycock, based on my spotter's guide over here.
Interesting.
I'm gonna guess that's first of many that we'll watch take a quick spin here, in one of the slower speed corners.
This is going to be very tricky conditions for both categories. Once the LMP3s get up to speed and into Sector 3, I'm wondering what we're going to see as first approach towards 130R for the first time in the LMP3s. Here comes Ethan Hamlet, championship leader. You can already see the dry line on track and Ethan just kind of navigating it. Mark Hansen still in the background. It's not like he's it's not like Ethan's checking out.
No, certainly not. Looks like we had a bit of a lockup there from Vincent. So I'll see here he rejoins here after Casio corner.
So he's going to lose some spots. Jaden Ledbetter's going to get around, as is Gabe Chavez. Gabe Chavez already putting some space between him and Paul Miles.
Yeah, let's see if Paul's able to get any more time as we get further into it and the dry line begins to make itself known. You can kind of see the hints of it as we get around to lap 2. Looks like Gabe had a off just in front of him.
So yeah, survival is going to be the order of the day. As I'm looking through the data, it does look like we've got a number of cars shuffling through the order right now. Looks like we might have had a crash or two, but we're going to stay focused in on the close cars because crashes are going to be something we're going to see a lot of. And racing action is going to be, you know, that's going to be the more exciting thing anyway, right? Ryan?
It certainly will be, but I think there was maybe something happening on the back straight. We should take a look at it when we get a moment. I'm currently sifting through the data as well to see and watching the replays to see what was going on there.
Let's actually see, because I do have some information. I can't tell necessarily what corner people were in when incidents happened, but we can take a peek and see a few things that happened. Let's take a peek at this. This is Sean Sullivan. Oh, he catches he hydroplanes.
Yep.
That is a big hydroplane, and that threw one car into the wall, and Sean actually looks like he might have made it out. Oh no, he rear-ended into the wall. That's gonna cost him big. So that caught him out. Let's take a look at Logan. Logan had a moment as well. Oh, he was caught up in. Yeah, it looks like he was caught up in that, and then I saw a flash. Might have been a little bit of a networking issue, but once everybody started kind of shuffling around the track, I think it was kind of a bit too late.
Yes, and it definitely looks like Mark Coyne got roped into that as the car that Sean ran into, and I'm guessing that Logan is probably either got net coded into it or was another victim as a result.
Indeed.
Based on that. So that's going to be big of a recovery drive from all three of those drivers as they get back underway.
Indeed. Back to live though. Let's get stuck back into it. We've got Ryan Beauchene trying to chase down Matt Pyle right now in the 64, and yeah, currently sitting, what is that, 1.5 seconds back from Matt.
Thereabouts. Yep.
Other close fights still in GT4 category. Going to give GT4 a little bit of love this week because we have a lot of close action happening in the points. Corey Lobner is having a time in that Porsche Cayman as he has to take the escape road at Casio Triangle.
I'm going to guess that's going to be a running theme from both of our classes, especially as they get through those braking zones. And if they get those brakes locked up for one reason or another, even with that ABS, it'll end up sliding a lot more than it would normally. And that escape road will probably get a lot of love as a result, as they try not to run into other vehicles that are making that Casio Triangle correct.
So real quick, let's take a moment and talk about. Oh, we're seeing a BMW going around. Oh, very evasive action by Corey,
Yes.
and he managed to dodge that. Wow.
Absolutely. Beautiful recovery, good heads up driving from Corey there. It's always, with an evolving track like that, it's, good to say, keep your head on a swivel, even when it's right in front of you,
Indeed. We're gonna jump on board with Vincent as he's trying to catch back up to Jaden Ledbetter, currently 9/10 back. So what I was gonna talk about before we saw that spin, I don't know if you're noticing this or not, but I am not seeing consistent lines across the field. Like, even in LMP3, even in GT4, I'm seeing cars position themselves kind of all over the place on approach to corners and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of where we're seeing some of these moments where cars are hydroplaning or sliding. Could be that the conditions shifted that much between qualifying and the race. But, yeah, it definitely seems like people are trying to find the dry line. And, I mean, the way they would say it where I'm from, they couldn't find it with, they couldn't find their butt with both hands and the lights on. So
How much spray is going on there? I can't imagine that isn't also a factor in them trying to keep an eye out of where they're even at on the track.
Yeah.
If they have another car in front of them and they're, all they see is spray, there's no way you can try and find a braking marker there. So you have to kind of take your own line at that point and, pray that you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Chris jumping in. There's only one line through the corner. Yeah, I mean, from bird's eye view, I can see it. I've got the advantage though. I'm not stuck in the spray. And yeah, the spray is, to both of your points, the spray is very, very brutal.
Speaking of Vincent LaRue and these lines, he just passed Jaden.
Yep, he did find his way around Jaden. Let's jump back to Vincent here. So finding his way around Jaden, got Gian Cardoso 1.6 seconds up the road, and it does look like relative pace between Jaden and Vincent. Looks like we've got about somewhere in the neighborhood of, what is that? 0.6 advantage for Vincent right now. So,
based on the current lap times.
Yep. He keeps it out of the wall, but he does take a detour at the hairpin. So, like you were saying before, the braking in these slower sections are catching people out in like a big way.
Especially with these LMP3s, because once those brake lock, there's no ABS going to unlock this for you. You got to do that yourself. And that's real hard to do when the track is as wet as it is, because it'll just want to slide on that, on that wet tarmac.
I do see that we have some folks in the pits already. I'm not sure if that's for damage, but I'm watching Ryan Beauchene's clock right now. I know Logan Branson's in for damage. I'm seeing his is already elapsed 1 minute and 40 seconds stationary. I'm seeing Ryan approaching 1 minute, so that's probably not scheduled maintenance at this point. Same with Dave Chamilio. Let's poke around and take a look. Tommy Kogan right now. He's trying to catch Is that William Lewis? Yeah, William Lewis in the number 4. And behind him, we've got one of the Newman boys. We've got Anthony Newman in the 17. So we got some tight spacing here in GT4.
Yes. The interesting thing between Anthony Newman and 2 ahead of Lewis, or 2 ahead of Kogan there, Christopher Blue, is that the 2 of them are currently fighting for the AM Championship top spot. So it is, if Newman's unable to find pace here to try to catch up to him, it looks like Christopher might be taking that spot away from him where it currently stands on the overall board.
Oh man, what a moment!
What a save too.
Yeah, that was a big save from William Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna get back on. He keeps it. Gets it back on the black stuff, but then runs into one. Oh, and Tommy's going into the wall. That is a broken front suspension, and he is buried. He's probably going to have to take it to the. He's probably going to have to teleport to the pits because he can't even get right turn lock on that car at all.
No, it doesn't look like it's turning either direction. So
yeah. So that right there, unfortunate. Let's go take a look at that from. Let's get a different angle on that crash because that was a big one. In fact, did it not actually? Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's after. They didn't register Tommy going off track.
It's such a slow slide into and then it finally catches. I'm kind of watching some of the replay. It finally catches and sends him into the wall. So it may not have registered the off track as anything more than an off track at that point.
Yeah, but Tommy going into the wall after he gets a little bit of a tank slapper, and he's going to be in the pits for a pretty lengthy repair, I believe.
I think
we do still have fast repairs. What I'm kind of curious though is that I've been seeing a lot of people taking the long ones. I don't know if it's that people are thinking this isn't going to be my first trip to the pits, so I might want to save it. But yeah, we'll see. Oh, Paul Miles off track has a moment in 130R, but manages to only scrape the inside wall or the outside wall on the approach to Casio Triangle. So he's going to live to fight another day.
That he is. I'm wondering what happened to Vincent LaRue.
Oh, we can go back and take a look at that. Oh, this is just his trip into the hairpin.
Well, no, that's not his trip into the hairpin.
Oh, no,
he's missed the rear wing there.
That is in Dunlop.
Yeah.
From this angle, so he had himself a moment at Dunlop. Let's see if we can find out what happened. Yeah, it's kind of another one of those things where I think he just had a bit of a slow progress to off track at Dunlop, and he's
no, it looks like he got spun and put into the wall there by Paul Miles.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he also but it looks like he kind of maybe also hydroplaned into Vincent hydroplaned into the turning pole, and that at that point they were both passengers trying to keep themselves out of the wall by the looks of it.
So survival seems to be a bit of a theme here at a wet Suzuka.
That it does.
I mean, we're like 6 minutes from the competition yellow. So folks that are going into the pits right now, getting those repairs, they're going to have another shot to try and close up to the back of the field and hopefully get back in the race. Just following along right now. Gabe Chavez currently sitting 6th in the overall. His competitor is about a second back, so even with the drama that Paul's been through, he's still hanging close to his nearest championship rival.
Mm-hmm. And while we're talking early here in the season, we do also have to look at the overarching, because with this, they will have 2 drop weeks that will cut out of their scoring for the best option. In front of them currently, based on what I'm seeing in their relatives, is Sam Wilson. He's currently sitting with 30 points, but he has missed the second race, I believe, or the first race. One of the two. I have to go back and look. And he is, so if he gets a good finish here, that might put him in the same realm of points as Gabe Chavez and Palmado. So,
Yeah, that definitely could be a factor. The drop rounds, we do have a few folks that have already used at least one of their drop rounds that are kind of season regulars for us. We got Mark Coyne and Matt Pyle in GT4 have already used a drop round. And then in the AM GT4, Brandon Potts, Tristan McNairn are some regulars that have already experienced a drop round as well. But most of the folks that are regulars with us currently sitting with no drops. So less than stellar Suzuka performance could result in them being able to recover later in the season just using Suzuka as a drop round.
yes. Yep. That'd be the other thing I think a lot of people are going to be looking at is the both Suzuka and then our other rain race of the season being those drop rounds for the ones that are able to make all of them if they have, rough races like they are this evening. So.
Indeed. It's so the thing is I think like with the survival element of the wet races, I really feel like even with folks that have already taken a trip to the pits and stuff, that there's still some good points on offer, especially in LMP3. I think if you're in LMP3 Pro or AM, like you don't want to drop this round.
It's good heads up driving from Dylan there as Sean makes another spin.
Yep. Gian Cardoso in the 42, and now we're back here with Mark Hansen, who's currently running in second, 7.2 seconds back from Ethan Hamlin. So everything we were talking about before at the start of the stream, we can just throw that out the window because Ethan Hamlin running very conservative lap times for his pace, managing to pull greater than 7 seconds ahead of Mark Hansen. Gian Cardoso, if he ends up finishing this race in this position, that is going to be a massive points haul for Gian.
That it certainly will, especially with where he is in the standings. That might bump him up to maybe fourth or fifth. Because I don't see Dylan on the roster here for the LMP3 Pro category. It'll definitely be good points for him in the long run. I think for anybody, like you were saying, anybody in the LMP3 category, as long as they finish, they will be getting some very nice points for their respective championships.
Yeah. William Lewis in the number 4. Looks like he is, I believe that is blue in front of him in the BMW right now. So the M4, probably the GT4 that I have the most experience with in iRacing. Yeah. Lewis hanging with him. Lewis also trying to keep it. Oh, and it does look like either there was a slide. Was there contact?
I'd have to go back and look. I don't think there was, but...
Yeah. Can we go back and see that? Oh, this is a different spot. So that's Christopher Blue having a moment in Degner. It does the Vettel spin. Very fancy.
Keeps it out of the wall, which is always the important part, which I think is how he ended up right in front of Lewis and behind Newman. And I think if we keep rolling here, we'll see him do that a second time. It did not look like contact for me.
Yeah, that's it right there. And yeah, there's no contact. It does look like Lewis got well to the outside, and Christopher Blue keeping it from significant damage on the M4 there. Rejoining here at Spoon Curve, just taking it ginger because that outside turf section of Spoon Curve is very slippery, especially in wet conditions. And he's getting it back on the black stuff and back to racing.
Which that does put Newman very firmly ahead of him and probably holding on to that GT4 AM category championship lead, unless we see some craziness on the restart, which should be coming up momentarily.
Yeah, we're going to be going to competition yellow here in a moment. And once that triggers,
Looks like it just happened.
Yep, I am seeing some yellow flag indicators, so I believe we are now in competition yellow phase. So I suspect there won't be any passing happening on track unless somebody wrecks. And the field is going to get stacked up.
I am going to take a quick dip into the admin channel to help facilitate those pass-throughs with Jaden. So I will leave you in the booth on your own for a moment.
Yes, sir. I'll see you in a minute. Let's take a look at the standings right now. So Ethan Hamlet firmly in the lead right now, LMP3, to no one's surprise. Currently 8.5 seconds. I'm guessing that Mark is going to try and use the restart to try and see if he can really mount a challenge here. Didn't see anybody taking early pit stops in LM, at least intentionally. So definitely thinking. Actually, let's take a peek. Yeah, we've got 2 people that have already dropped out in LMP3 category, which is unfortunate, but now we are back. Oh. Did something happen to Ethan? Did I just lose the stream? Looks like it's still going. I think I might have lost connectivity to iRacing. Let me switch over to the start screen real quick, folks. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can figure out what's happening. Yeah, no game, though. It looks like iRacing just crashed. Yeah, overlays paused because iRacing just dumped. So let's see if I can get that back online. Again, apologies, folks. I'll switch over to the stream starting screen. Okay. Yeah, everybody should still be able to hear me right now. Let me shut off the timer because we don't have a timer going. Apologies for that. Just waiting for iRacing to cycle the basically when iRacing crashes, the service has to notice that the game has stopped so that it will let me get back in. So I am trying to figure out how to facilitate that in a quicker fashion. It happening during the competition yellow, kind of not the worst thing in the world to happen. Hopefully I can get it back up and running before. I'm going to go ahead and just in case. Let's see here. Just in case we're dealing with other system performance issues, I'm going to shut off the projector. Let's move over here now and see if I can get iRacing back. There it is. Okay, cool. All right, so rejoining. Again, apologies, folks. Technical difficulties. Sometimes this happens. It happens for cars. Sometimes it happens for broadcasters, too. So, going to wait a moment while we're waiting for the client to validate. So while we're waiting, again, kind of what Finicini was talking about, the championship, GT4 in particular, very close. Well, actually, I would say even LMP3 AM category. Gabe Chavez right now currently sitting in a really good spot. He's got a good buffer to Paul Miles. Zach Fisher already out after an early collision, which is unfortunate because Zach's going to lose some really good points. But Mark Robeson and Chris Turner not here. So probably going to be looking at someone like Sam Wilson to move up the order. Taking a look at the GT4 points right now. Steve Wallace out. So Scott has a really good opportunity. Scott Fleming in currently tied with Jared Jones in third with 83 points. Really looking good to move up the order. Sims loaded at about 90%. Yeah, not really sure what happened there. But we'll get loaded back in. And all right, we do have audio, so you guys are going to hear stuff, but that's okay. So I'm just going to switch back over. That feed, get the windowed projector switched back on. Okay, all right, that's back. All right, so you should have. Let me double check real quick. All right. So it does look like the field has held steady. I'm going to try and see if I can look in the data and see if I can see pit information, because I possibly would have missed pit stops if people would have pulled the trigger on those. I don't see any pit data, so I'm going to assume that hasn't happened yet, or people haven't taken a pit stop. Oh, nope, I'm seeing Ethan Hamlet going in now. So let's go ahead and switch over to Ethan Hamlet and go to TV3 as Ethan. So LMP3s are pulling in right now. There's the pace car. If somebody would give me a thumbs up in chat for video and audio, that'd be great. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. So Ethan's going to try and take the pit stop quickly with the safety car stacking the field up. There's Scott Fleming right now. So I see Scott Fleming down the order now. Scott is running. Oh, no, he's not down the order. He's actually in the lead right now. J Content, how are you doing? Your boy Ethan, he's got pace. I think the wet weather is going to mix up things. It's going to be pretty tough for the GT4 wave arounds, but it does look like it's actually starting to happen now. So yeah, sit patient with us, folks, as we're working through the GT4 wave arounds, especially in wet weather. Everybody's going to have to stay very, very frosty when it comes to doing these wave arounds, because you don't want to slide or run into somebody in these wet conditions. So with the order as is right now, Ethan Hamlet in the front in LMP3, Gian Cardoso in second, Jaden Ledbetter, and then Paul Miles managing to get out in front of Gabe Chavez after the pit stop. Then we got Mark Hansen, Samuel Wilson after Paul Miles, so 5th and 6th. Gabe Chavez in 7th. Zach Fisher and Vincent LaRoe both are out of the car after collisions before the competition yellow. So we are sitting along, waiting for the wave rounds to continue. I do see Scott in the back of the field right now. See, the problem here is that Scott's in the lead overall, and it doesn't look like he's going to pit. He might be going low, so this is going to be awkward. So now it's like, do the rest of the GT4s in front between him and the pace car get the wave around? Thanks for sitting tight with us, folks, as this whole situation gets sorted out under competition yellow. GT4s are going in, so this will help now. So GT4 is going in, Ethan's going to get released, Gian's going to get released, and now the GT4s are going in for their scheduled pit stops with Scott Fleming in the back of the GT4 pack, but leading the GT4 field. So it is going to come down to how does the pit stop work out for Scott Fleming in the 37. Ethan Hamlet and the LMP3s moving through the field, and they're getting set up. So seeing Anthony Newman move to the top of GT4, maybe with an early pit stop there, because Anthony Newman, William Lewis, and Benjamin Nelson all have pitted per the regs. And Scott Fleming looks like he's going to get jumped by Corey Lobner in the pits. And the one thing to consider here, folks, is that this is not going to be all there is when it comes to race strategy here. With the limited fuel capacity in LMP3 and GT4, I suspect we are going to see another pit stop from both categories outside of a competition yellow. It'll be very interesting. Again, want to remind everybody we're here at Suzuka for round 3. Track Limits Racing presents the Sports Car Series at a wet Suzuka International Racing Course. The LMP3 and GT4 Pro and AM Championships still underway in this 90-minute race. We've done the competition yellow. That's currently underway. And I believe once we get the GT4s cycled out in the pits, I believe we will get geared up to go racing. With the fuel capacity here for GT4 and LMP3, I do believe it is going to force another stop for both categories. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out later in the race. As always, if you're interested in being a part of the show, please give us a follow on thesimgrid.com. Just search the host section for Track Limits Racing. And yeah, be a part of the action. We still got space in both categories. Yeah, check us out. As was indicated previously, 20 degrees, ambient temperature 22 degrees on track, 100% precipitation chance. Overcast skies. That's probably going to be the tail to take for the rest of the race. So we do still have some wave rounds, the 34 and the 228. So we've got Jared Jones and Eduardo Zamora both trying to catch back up to the pack. We're going to watch the pace car, though, and see. Looks like we are going to take one more lap around Suzuka International Raceway during the competition yellow period. 34 minutes, 26 seconds have elapsed in the race. We've still got a little under an hour. I suspect we're going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 minutes of racing to the end. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to post in chat. 11 people tuned in to watch the show right now. Thank you all so much for being here. good to be back. Casting the sports car series was away. Miss Navarra. Was disappointed. That definitely seemed like a pretty good race. Ethan Hamlet, doing Ethan Hamlet things, taking the win. But Mark Hansen, Robert Lewis both getting top spots. Oh, that is a McLaren. Is that Mark Coyne going off track? Oh no, Mark Coyne jumped into the pits. Hopefully that was not contact related. Got to be careful right now with these conditions. You cannot take the conditions for granted at all. Back to the Navarra results. Paul Miles taking the win. Gabe Chavez in second. Sam Wilson in third. So that's what set the tone for the LMP3 AM Championship. As close as it is. We have some cars getting the wave around. Conditions are tricky. I believe the GT4s are just getting another wave around, Chris. Not really sure why, but you know what? It could be they're getting another wave around. It also could be that the wave around for some of the cars was incomplete. Just because the field was sorted, essentially, doesn't mean that a situation wasn't created where folks that were already like a lap ahead of other cars got a wave around, but people that were already a lap behind didn't. So that could be what's getting rectified right now. Jaden says he's working on it. Thanks for being patient with us, folks, as we get this sorted out. More information relative to Navarra. So, GT4 category, Scott just dominated. Looks like he had really good pace all race. Tommy Kogan coming in second. Mark Coyne getting a third place finish. Mark Coyne's had a terrible Suzuka, but you got 2 drop rounds. Let's take a look at the GT4 AM category, which by and large is the closest category right now. Christopher Blue in the 530, taking a race win at Navarra. Sean Sullivan, Anthony Newman round out the top 3. So that right there, very interesting outcome. Christopher Blue taking a race win in AM category. Not seeing the usual suspects at the front there. I believe since there was still GT4s that needed to get a wave around, I suspect we're going to do another lap around Suzuka. But hopefully they'll be able to close ranks fast, and we'll be able to go racing after this one. Let's talk pit stops, because pit stops were a pretty big deal. The order did get shuffled in a pretty big way. Anthony Newman, William Lewis, Benjamin Nelson both taking the early pit stop, either early in the competition yellow or right before. It does look like they made out with some pretty good time to leapfrog Scott Fleming, who's now in 5th. Actually, Corey Lobner jumped Scott in the pits as well. Matt Pyle is really going to want to take this fight to Scott. Jared Jones, not that far out, currently running in 8th. I do see Mark Coyne in the pits for almost 4 minutes now. That must have been a pretty hard knock. Oh, please tell me my client did not crash again. Oh, there we go. Every time I see a car blink now, I'm just going to assume that my client has bricked again. Sorry about that, everybody. So let's take a peek. So pit stop data, man, fast pit stops. William Lewis cranked out a 52.0, but that's not even the fastest. Jared Jones, a 46.53. He was stationary for 19 seconds. Slideshow iRacing. Oh, I'm dropping frames like mad? Hang on. Let me check. Could it be something to do? Let me look real quick.
It looks good on my end.
Yeah, my bit rate seems to be pretty good, but it also could just be the iRacing client. Like, OBS could be pushing everything and it could look good, but iRacing could just be jittery. So, Finn, looks like you guys had a time of it getting the GT4s sorted.
That we did. A couple of them decided to box on the same lap as the LMP3 pit open, so we kind of jumbled our order all kinds of sideways. And then we got it all sorted with our lapped cars getting unlapped from the leader of the class as they finished their pit stops and are rolling back to the top of the grid as we are, I think, getting ready to go back to green flag racing here. At the end of this lap, if I'm remembering correctly.
They're heading down the backstretch right now. So, Ethan Hamlet still in the lead of this race, but Gian Cardoso leapfrogging to second in the competition yellow phase. Like, that is huge for Gian. Gian is pulling out what could be a monster race in terms of a points haul for him. And then kind of the same deal with, like, Anthony Newman in the lead of GT4. The story that I'm going to follow, though, is going to be Corey Lobner and Scott Fleming. Scott letting Corey get around him during the pit stops. I'm kind of curious about that one now. And Matt Pyle's behind Scott, so Matt Pyle's suddenly back in it.
Yes. Definitely a big shuffle of who's in what position after the pit stop for GT4 and how that impacts all of the racing. Especially as William Lewis is currently ahead of both Scott Fleming and Matt Pyle. So there is also the possibility that he slides up to the top of this order, the overall championship order at the end of this. If he's able to maintain that position he's gained, and potentially more if he goes through and gets past Anthony Newman.
Indeed, and we are back to green flag racing. The second the pace car came in, Ethan Hamlet just gunned it. And LMP3 is going into first curve right now. Looks like almost Noah's Ark formation, but they're starting to straighten out as they get ready to go into the snake section. Let's jump back to the GT4s as Anthony Newman is going to lead the pack into first curve as they are getting ready. Let's switch over to a different camera here. Does look like Scott did get the jump on Matt, and he is locked right behind the bumper of Benjamin Nelson as they're going into the snake section. And boy, he's going to have to be very patient.
That he is. Amongst all that is going to be Mark Hansen as he tries to get back underway after a off-track excursion. Seemed to have led him a little bit astray, and he's now got to get past GT4 traffic. That'll be battling him for position. Overall position, I suppose, but it's not the blue flag that usually happens when an LP3 is passing you.
Okay, Scott Fleming, and it looks like Benjamin come into contact as they were going into anti-bank curve, and now into Degner 1 and 2.
Yeah, it looked like there was some pretty serious door banging throughout the S's between those two as they were getting underway.
So Scott is just foot down trying to make hay while, well, the sun's not shining, but you get it. Into the hairpin, and he's got his sights set on Anthony Newman, and the GT4 racing is very close. Meanwhile, in AM category in LMP3, Paul Miles found his way around Gabe Chavez, but both of them ended up behind Samuel Wilson as they're going down the backstretch now on the way to 130R. Look at that spray.
Yeah, it is something fierce. You know, being able to see the headlights, and that's all you can see of one of these cars is, it also is indicative of the people that are on the other end of that spray trying to figure out where their braking marker is, and that's always a fun thing to try to navigate as you're going through some of the fastest corners in the on Suzuka.
You actually gave me something to think about here. Let's jump on board with Paul Miles in the roll bar. You can't even see. You can't even see Samuel Wilson in the front. Like, and there he is. There's a car. It's like suddenly, like out of nowhere, a car appears. This is so wild, man. Look at the rain on the inside of the exit of first curve, and then you go through the S's here. Man, this looks so treacherous.
And this, talk about that racing line that's starting to develop here. That's like, it seems like the only way you'll go through it without some kind of hydroplaning. And even then, it still looks like they're fighting those controls to get it to actually finish turning.
You can hear Milo is modulating the throttle. He is just on the head of a pin. This is some exciting stuff.
That's one of the things I always love about rain racing as a result, though, is you have such technical detail that you have to be able to, rely on consistently over the course of these 90 minutes and, have it work for you in a pace that ends up putting you as far into the field and out in front of it if you can, as by comparative to anybody else.
Now, not going to leave the GT4s out. We've got Jared Jones, who's now going off-road on the exit of Degner 1. And looks like Matt Pyle was able to get the M4 turned in at Degner 2 before Jared could get back on track. Now, up the road, William Lewis, who was second at the restart, has started to fall down the order. And he takes a very deep line into the hairpin. And Matt Pyle now on approach to Spoon Curve. He's just trying to catch back up to William Lewis now. Jared Jones lost a couple spots, dropped back to 8th. He's now back behind that Brandon Potts.
I believe it is Brandon Potts that he is behind.
Yeah.
And you're looking at some of these times for these drivers versus their average pace, especially. And like William seems to be running very slow after the restart. I'm wondering if it's either something about the lines he's taken is not working for him as well as he would expect them to, or what isn't clicking with him for this sector of the race. But he seems to have a lot more pace in there that he needs to go find and extract to get back up in that order and battle for that new top spot on the GT4 Pro category.
That is going to be interesting. And talking about what could not be working for him. So he was stationary for 27.02 seconds during the pit stop. He had a 52-second pit lane travel time. I'm not sure. Maybe he took tires. I don't know. That still seems kind of fast for tires, but sometimes people will do things like take fronts only or something like that.
Yeah, that would be my guess if he did take tires, but it would. I don't know that there would be a huge point to it, especially because they would put them on cold tires on a already cold track.
Yep.
So whatever little heat you can get into these over the course of this 20 minutes we had racing prior would already be gone.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to watch as to see if he's able to get some more pace back into those and get back up the order.
So we are going to stay plugged in to the GT4 category as we go switch to Tommy Kogan, who's having not the race he would hope for. Sitting 11th in GT4 category. Probably going to try and get to the checkers and bring home as many points as he can muster. There's still, what am I saying? There's still plenty of racing to happen here. things could go very hairy for folks at the front of GT4 category. But Tommy, head down, trying to move through the GT4 order. Just probably not where he wants to be right now.
I can imagine he probably is kicking himself a little bit for either his pit time or potentially some rough restart that has dropped him into that spot. And I agree with you, being that heads down, just focus on those apexes and exits, as we like to kind of rely on that phrase, but it's a very true one, even though the line is going to be very different in the rain or in the wet than it is in the dry.
Indeed.
Finding that time, as it looks like, as we're following along with Tommy, we might see a wild William Lewis ride back onto track for another off-track excursion. I wonder if there's something off with the somewhere in that car. There's a bit of damage or something else going on there.
Yeah, not sure. William Lewis really starting to fall like a stone through the GT4 category. Tommy Cogan getting taking the esports. yeah. It is a very interesting line indeed. The other thing I'm noticing too is so Tommy going to get an opportunity to move up the order. Somebody else who's moving down the order, but actually is kind of surprising for me, given that from a racing strategy perspective, he had such a good pit stop. Jared Jones, stationary for 19.1 seconds. The only person that was faster through a scheduled pit stop than Jared Jones was Brandon Potts with a 17.12. Those are some quick times in GT4 category. I'm sure you're going to be surprised to hear that Ethan Hamlet was stationary for 15.73 seconds, and that was the fastest LMP3.
I'm shocked that is the time there, that he didn't have a longer one. But not far behind him was Gian Cardoso's box time as well, which I think is what put him into that second place.
Yeah.
Kind of almost jump he got on the undercut over both. I think it was.
I mean, he leapfrogged 4 people. He leapfrogged, he leapfrogged Gabe Chavez, so he leapfrogged 1. Jaden Ledbetter was already behind him. So was Sam Wilson. So you're right. He got 1 leapfrog out of that leapfrogging Gabe. Gabe actually lost out pretty big in the pit stops. He was stationary for 16.9 seconds, but his pit lane travel time was 47.42. Paul Miles had a really good pit stop, 15.35, so still better, but his pit lane travel time was 41.23 seconds. So significant time on the table from Gabe Chavez, just leaving it on the table for Paul Miles to run away with. And you can see it now. At least he's maintaining good pace relative to Paul Miles, so I don't think this fight's over between those two.
I don't think so as well. If Gabe, consistency is still such a huge piece of this at any stage of the game. But if he's able to set, consistently quick times, because it still looks like Gabe's setting faster times now than he did earlier on in the race, he'll be able to, I think, catch back up to Paul and continue to give a fight to him. Especially if Paul's doing off tracks like he, I think, just finished.
Yeah, he just finished off tracks. Now, the other thing to consider here is off tracks and relative penalties for drive-through. Is trying to speed run a drive-through. Exactly. That's where I was headed, Chris. So Paul Miles currently in lead of LMP3 with 12 off tracks. Do you want to guess who's second?
I want to say Gabe, but
Yep, you're right on the money. Gabe Chavez with 11. And then third is Jaden, who's sitting second overall with 10. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fare for the rest of this race. Going to really have to tighten it up, play it conservative, because taking a drive-through on a wet Suzuka is going to cost you even more time on trying to get the car slow for that pit entry. In GT4, kind of another interesting tale. Christopher Blue tied in the lead for 10 with Eduardo Zamora. Both of them kind of out of the running right now for the overall, but both of them hanging around, probably going to net them some it's not nothing in terms of points in GT4, so definitely going to want to stick with it. But Benjamin Nelson currently sitting second behind Scott Fleming, holding 8 off tracks. So he's definitely going to have to tighten it up if he wants to hold on to a second place overall finish and a second place in the Pro Cap.
Yes, definitely going to be interesting to see, like especially as we get down to the last half hour here, a little over, sorry, 35 or so minutes left of racing. If they're able to keep that locked in like that and not able to, or not taking more off tracks or incidents through spins or car contacts that lead to other incidents, it'll definitely be good finishing and good points for the championship, even on the wet weather of Suzuka.
So another thing to talk about, kind of mind-blowing if you think about it. Fastest lap of the race, Jaden Ledbetter with a 24.693. Didn't think Jaden had a 24 in him, but lo and behold, in race pace, he does. I mean, he had that in qualifying, no question. But qualifying pace, race pace, these conditions, dealing with other cars on track, completely different matter. But pumping in a 24.693. Now, it's not over. We are going to get to see Ethan Hamlet with the last half hour of this race and low fuel on an LMP3. So it's probably not done, but still hats off to Jaden for clocking in the fastest in LMP3.
Yes, and I see a good overtake there from Tommy on the screen with us while we were looking at those fastest times, both the initial overtake and then as well as working through that traffic to keep kind of crawling back towards a more solid finish and keep him in the running for those top spots in the GT4 Pro category.
Yeah, we do have in the GT4 Pro category in particular right now, we do have a bit of with the exception of Scott in the lead of GT4, we do have a bit of a shuffle happening here with Benjamin Nelson, Benjamin Nelson, Tanner Schiffner currently holding the last 2 spots in the Pro podium for GT4. Matt Pyle, Jared Jones, Matt Pyle and Jared Jones not far behind, and Ryan Beauchesne also trying to move back through the field, but currently sitting about 1.2 seconds, about 1 second now behind Brandon Potts.
And it'd be interesting to see if Ryan, I'm excited to see, let me put it that way, if Ryan can keep up the pace, because it looks like Tommy's been running pretty consistent laps that has gotten him back into the fight here. Between the two of them, who's going to be on the second and third steps of the podium after the race here? If Scott Fleming continues his kind of tear-away lead based on what I see on the relatives from Benjamin Nelson, who's going to be staying on those other 2 kind of podium spots on the championship after this week's points are all drawn up? Because it looks like it'll be Ryan and then Tommy, but it could go the other way, especially with Jared floating up there. Him taking that second spot.
Yeah, to your point about Jared, I did want to highlight that when it comes to GT4 pace right now, the only person that's even close to Scott right now is Jared Jones, currently running in 6th. Last lap was a 34.619, his personal best. So he's starting to cook with a little over a half hour left in this race. In fact, let's go find, where is Jared right now? Is he going to catch Matt Pyle or not?
I believe he's got the opportunity to, in the next couple of laps, if he keeps going at a pretty decent pace. He just set his fastest lap of the race, the last lap. He's coming around to the start-finish now. I got the feeling that he might be able to, unless Matt is more consistent than Jared is at this point. Both have set pretty quick laps. 2:33.2 was Jared's last, and even faster. So I got the feeling that, especially as we get to some of the more technical sections where that pace seems to really be showing for Jared, he'll be able to catch up.
Indeed, and what I think is going to help him along is the fact that Anthony Newman and Matt and Tanner, is that so? So Anthony Newman currently holding up Tanner Schiffner And Matt Pyle is looming large in the background, just waiting to see how this all unfolds. And as this kind of like slows the party down, I think that's given Jared the opportunity to catch back up. So we might have a three-way fight in pro category once these cars get clear of Anthony Newman.
Definitely. I think, for the two that are in pro behind the Anthony Newman, but also you got to look, like, you got to think as Anthony Newman, currently tied for the lead of GT4 AM category. He's looking at his relative going, where's the next, amateur car that I have to worry about racing, and is it Christopher Blue or not? And the answer is currently no, because it's Sean Sullivan, who's way down in P8 in class. So it'll be.
I believe that was Benjamin Nelson.
I believe it was.
Yeah, I wonder if he hydroplaned, because that's a very awkward spot to end up in the Armco on the approach to 200R.
It definitely looks like he just took the Formula Drift line and came to a slow halt, kept it out of the wall though. So I think he'll be able to get back if he is already underway. But that is always really frustrating when you hit the hydroplane and you don't recover it in time. But at the same time, a good way to keep it from getting worse is just to let it ride out,
One thing to talk about right now is the only fight we got going on right now in LMP3 category is Paul Miles is very close to Sam Wilson. And I think Milo's really going to want to try and clear Sam as best he can. Now, in terms of pace, they're not that far apart. We're talking about maybe 4/10 between them right now. But like if Milo is aiming for anything, he's going to be trying to figure out a way to clear Sam and try and put as much space between him and Gabe Chavez as he can. In fact, Gabe Chavez currently sitting 17 seconds back from Milo, so good buffer. But at the same time, too, I think Milo's going to want to try and put as much space as he can between them.
I definitely agree. I think Milo's wanting to also, put the space in terms of points between him and Gabe by putting Sam Wilson, which Sam Wilson runs off wide, which could be, a continued sign of the pace difference as well as consistency that we're seeing here. So I think it's really going to be finding the right moment to make that dive in that pass while he's trying to clear his black flag for that corner cut and make the most of it for Milo there as we get into the S's.
So the LMP3 is now going through the snake section. Milo looks like he's probably going to have to just sit here and just be patient. Meanwhile, I'm watching the relative there, and I do see Matt Pyle still effectively chilling right behind Anthony Newman. It looks like Tanner Schiffner did get around Newman and has already cleared him to the tune of almost 9/10. But Matt Pyle now trying to make it happen, and he needs to do it quick because Jared Jones is now little over 2 seconds. Well, actually, that's a huge delta growth right there. Did Jared Jones just have an off track?
Don't think so. Let's see.
Not sure, but he just went from being about 2 seconds back to being now.
He had forgive me. He had a pretty gnarly slide coming at the end of going into Spoon Curve that he recovered successfully, but that is probably why his delta jumped so much.
Yeah, so he's going to have to get the car straightened back out, get back out on track. Now, the good news story there for Jared Jones is didn't lose relative to Benjamin Nelson because Benjamin Nelson had that moment in 200R last lap. So now definitely going to be actually, one big story, Gian Cardoso jump into the pits. Let's see if we can figure out what happened here.
I'm looking at some replay data at the moment, and it looks like Cody Gillespie took a pretty gnarly spin, and Gian trying to get some clear air after being behind the
oh, I see it.
in the spray of a GT4 gets caught up at the wrong moment at the wrong time.
Oh, and his front left is broken.
Yep. and
Yeah.
he is unable to keep that car going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Thankfully, still have those fast repairs.
Yeah. So that is unfortunate for Gian. Just bad luck. It happens, especially in the wet weather. Oh, and we got again with the off track. Although this time I think Milo was close enough that he's just going to make it stick. Takes the inside line for the last curve and moves ahead of Sam Wilson. Gabe Chavez currently 20 seconds back. So Paul Miles going to take the lead in the AM class. And Sam Wilson, if he can hang on to this and finish ahead of Gabe Chavez, that's going to be some good points for him in the AM category.
Absolutely. And when we come in to factor those drop weeks out, I think it'll be a big piece of the puzzle for Sam if he's able to keep a consistent, finish ahead of Gabe going into the future rounds of this championship.
Whoa.
Oh.
He threw the anchors out, and boy, was Matt Pyle not ready for that.
No, he was not.
Yeah. Both of them taking the most awkward dance through the hairpin, but managing not to come into contact with one another. So Benjamin Nelson now in 5th. So Jared Jones is out of the picture now.
He took his pit stop, I believe, and that probably is why he is so far back. But it'll be interesting to see if he can keep it going as I'm following along with him, and I see a Milo that is taking his turn to go on the off track. A little ways behind where we're seeing Matt Pyle and Anthony Newman continue their dance.
Yeah, so Matt Pyle losing heaps of time behind Anthony Newman right now. And Tanner Schiffner is just benefiting from this in spades. Currently 3 seconds is the time behind Tanner Schiffner now. So, and that's so Matt Pyle's got to clear Newman and then got to find 3 seconds to try and take the fight to Schiffner. So I think he's going to try and get this done as soon as he can.
He's running out of time to make moves to put himself back into fighting contention with Tanner. He's going to have to be bold and be risky, which is always a much harder thing to, find as we now have this nice kind of racing line in the wet to kind of find some amount of grip on a consistent basis. But going offline, you'll find yourself with a lot more water to get through your tires.
Yeah. Talking about racing lines and trying to keep it together, William Lewis currently in 9th, having a bit of a slide on the exit of last curve. It does not look like the Cayman is planted at all. It just looks like it is on the verge of killing him in every corner.
I'm wondering if something is either damaged on it or there's something wrong with the setup at this point that was benefiting him earlier, and now that the rain has continued, something's not clicking anymore.
Get some onboard footage with William Lewis and see if we can watch his steering inputs to see if there's something going on, if he's really fighting the car, or if this is just the lines. Like for me, I'm not seeing him fight the car too much. Oh, nope,
yeah.
Never mind. I've seen it get really floaty on the exit of Dunlop.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of these high-speed corners, he seems to be keeping that wheel all over the place to try to keep the car from going around on him.
So fast hands from William Lewis to keep it going on the black stuff. Just wait and see how his race unfolds. Jumping back to the front now, your race leader. You don't get to see enough of him because he just usually, travels through time. Currently navigating through the GT4 traffic as he heads down the backstretch. But Ethan Hamlet, 21 seconds ahead of Jaden Libet.
And it comes down to that consistent pace thing that we talked about at the beginning of the race, with just that raw, tempo that he's able to kind of crank out in these laps. I would say I'm surprised, but I don't think it's fully honest with where he is at versus everybody else.
Yep.
But at the same time, still, a great amount of effort to be able to do so for 90 minutes and, not have like a mix-up that puts him back within striking distance of anybody else in the category.
Indeed. And again, kind of highlighting that gap since we're focusing on Ethan. You got Schiffner going into first curve right now. You can see Anthony Newman, and Matt Pyle has just lost time relative to Anthony Newman. Last lap from him was faster, but he's still like 3.2 seconds back from Newman. So Matt Pyle is really, really running out of time. It is code blue, like to get his racing gear and get into that third overall spot. Although right now, to be honest, he might not be sweating it too much. Now that I think about it, because his closest competitor, Benjamin Nielsen, is 6.3 seconds back. He might be saying third in pro is fine.
And that, I think, is probably the mentality at this point. Third in pro probably isn't a bad place to be, especially given that the two people in front of him would still be not as far, behind him. Would still be behind him, I should say, in terms of points at the end of the day. Tanner Schiffler is currently sitting way down in 8th in the GT4 Pro standings. It'd probably bump him up, but I don't think it would put him past where Matt Pyle currently sits. Especially when you take into the drop leaks into consideration.
Indeed. Looking right now, trying to find the field has kind of, at this point, is kind of stretched out. Like it's kind of like you got Matt Pyle that's now who has closed the gap back up. He's now 1.5 seconds back. But the next closest GT4 runner is Tommy Kogan chasing down Jared Jones. So the two of them fighting in the in kind of the midfield of GT4 overall. That they're definitely going to be. I think there's going to be some questions after this race about what could have gone better for a lot of people.
I feel like if you walk away from this race going, what could I have done better? And your name is not Ethan Hamlin, I think, and if you don't have at least something to work on, you got to do some thinking. Because, like, there's definitely places for, in terms of any race, you want to be able to walk away and say, here's what I could have done better for next time. Because that way you have that improvement, and it's always a big goal to get better in general, not just in, individual races. So
Matt Pyle using those fast hands to keep the car from really going full 360 as he overcooks it into Casio Triangle. I think he had a bit of a rear lockup.
It's what it looked like on my end. I'd have to go back and double check, but I believe that was the case, and that's why he ended up trying to take that runoff instead of rear-ending Anthony Newman and ended his race early.
Am seeing some pit stops. Ryan Beauchesne in for his second, I believe. Actually, if I'm looking at the front runners, Scott Fleming, Tanner Schiffner, Anthony Newman have yet to pit. Wondering kind of when people are going to pull the trigger for what I believe should be at least one more stop.
It should be. It'll probably be a splash and dash from all of them because with like we've been talking about earlier, with the pace that they're setting and the fuel that they are using, definitely a lighter fuel load you'll need at the end. But I can't say that I would do it on one stop. I don't think it's statistically able to be done with the fuel capacities they currently got, but it's we might get surprises here and there from one of the categories, but we're starting to see that those people take their final pit stops.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see. It looks like we also got I believe a fast repair from Tommy amongst all that. Gets his wing put back on where we lost it.
So interestingly enough, Ryan Beauchesne taking the early pit stop. Jared Jones has also taken a third pit stop, and both of them still managed to come out in front of both William Lewis, also Tommy Kogan. I'm trying to think, was there someone else in pro category that they were really scrapping with one another? And I really think
William Lewis was the other one. William Lewis was the other one that I thought of as being, who they were kind of racing against. I saw him being in front of both Jared and Ryan before, but I thought he saw him just take his final pit stop, and that put him back behind them. So I don't think there was anybody else in pro
In pro,
category.
yeah.
That ended up behind them, I should say.
Yeah, so Jared Jones moving up now into 6th, which would put him, I mean, like if he's in 6th, I'm seeing Anthony Newman going into the pits. So Anthony Newman, let's switch over to William Lewis right now. We do have the track map pulled up. See where he's going to come out relative to Anthony Newman when Anthony Newman hits the end of pit road. Jared Jones moving up into 6th. That is going to put him into, I believe, 5th in pro category for this race. As far as his points haul, 4th. So it's not all lost for Jared Jones with some of the moments that he's had this race. Still good points on offer.
Absolutely.
Taking a look at other folks, I do see that Corey Lobner crashed. Not sure what happened there. Let's see if we can figure out what happened. I do see. Okay, so Corey. Oh, he has the same tank slapper moment that I believe impacted Tommy.
Yes, early on.
And he teleports right back to the pits. But then, what I'm curious about is, he comes back out. Oh no, that's it. That's the beginning of it. Okay. The events were like in a different sequence in the interface. But man, that is that's a brutal time to have an accident like that.
And that, it shows the cool, what I think is very cool, the modeling of rain in iRacing and how true to life it is, where if you put too much acceleration on that paint, because of how that'll react with the tire surface, it'll just end up causing you to spin.
Indeed.
So, very fun.
So, with Anthony Newman taking the pit stop, Matt Pyle has been unleashed. And now is going to try, I guess, he does have a little bit of pace relative to Tanner Schiffner, so he's probably going to try and close that gap down as much as he can, so that, maybe if some pit stop hijinks happens, could see him taking the fight to Schiffner. But also, I'm just kind of curious relative to Jared Jones, like where he's going to come out. Scott Fleming, race leader, he's going into pits right now.
Yeah, that'll be his final pit stop, along with, I think, a couple others when they come around for the pit cycle. But given how far away some of them are, though it does not look like Tanner took the pit cycle.
Tanner did not take a pit stop. He's going to try and extend. We are talking lighter fuel loads towards the end of the race. I don't really know how it's going to matter in terms of overall pace, but he's going to try and see if he can catch Scott with the overcut. Might be one of those situations where just try something.
Yeah.
Matt Pyle into the pits now. He's going to stop, and we're going to see where he's going to come out relative to. I think his only battle right now is with. I think his only battle right now is with Tanner. Like Tanner's got to have a good pit stop when he finally pulls the trigger. Although Anthony Newman coming around right now, is he going to leapfrog Matt Pyle again?
That was my thought process. It's not for position in standings because of the AM versus Pro, but I'm curious, and it looks like Matt successfully
cleared Anthony.
I guess, cleared him. But I believe that was the other fight I was going to mention for Matt is just getting out in front of Anthony Newman, so that way he's not losing time again to Tanner once Tanner pits.
We haven't talked a lot about LMP3s, but that's because the racing is not particularly close right now. The field is very stretched out. The closest race we got going right now is Gian Cardoso racing Paul Miles, and they're not even in the same class.
You also have Gabe Chavez racing Paul Miles to some degree.
Yeah, to some degree. 12 seconds, but yeah, I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out for Paul. Paul does have his second pit stop done. He is dealing with some GT4 traffic, and boy, was that so close between him and Anthony Newman.
Oh, man.
Going into Degner 1. Yeah.
Good heads-up driving from both of them, so that we don't end up door banging and potentially sending both of them into a nice slide.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gabe Chavez right now going in 200R. So Gabe's going to have to pull the trigger on pit stop. Ethan Hamlin, by the way, jumping in the pits for his last pit stop. Man, I got the feeling that some of these moments for these drivers have definitely taken a few hours off one's lifespan.
Mm-hmm. Especially given the margin of error that some of these incidents are happening in, or near incidents, I should say. Definitely hours, certainly hours, maybe days, depending on the scenario. Off of their expected lifespans.
Do have a close fight happening here in the AM category. William Lewis, who's currently holding on to second in the AM category for this race, being chased down by Christopher Blue. And Christopher Blue, really a good performer at Navarra, really going to want to try and maximize his points haul out of Suzuka to kind of like capitalize on what he's already gained from Navarra. And a second place finish in AM would be a really good result for Chris. But I think William Lewis is going to try and keep that very sketch Cayman on the black stuff. Man, that car just pushes so much.
It looks like it's always trying to keep going in whatever direction he starts pointing it in, and whenever he wants to move it to go a different direction, it does not want to. It seems to be fighting him. It is a horse that has a mind of its own, it feels like.
Yeah. So going into 130R right now, this is one of those corners that I feel like. Chris loses it
behind him. Yeah.
Oh, now so that might have been, if he can keep it out of the wall for a second lick. Yep, there he goes. If he can keep that going, I'm hoping that front right is not crushed, because if his front right suspension hangs on, third place finish in the AM category, not a bad thing to walk away from after a mistake like that.
I think that would be second, actually. I'm not seeing anybody else outside of Anthony Newman in front of him, but it looks like he's going into the pits to get that checked out and probably taking a second quick repair.
The second place in AM right now is William Lewis.
Isn't he pro? Sorry, I thought he was pro category.
Nope. William Lewis is in the AM. I think he's leading the AM, if I'm not mistaken.
Anthony Newman and Chris Blue are tied for AM, at least according to my sheet.
Yeah. Yes. So, no, he's listed in pro on the spreadsheet and listed in AM in the race. Not anything that would make us at all confused. And is that the sun?
I think that is a little bit of sun. I'm gonna look at our weather. It looks like we have a brief bit of just sunlight peeking through the rain clouds.
To finish this race off. Oh, are you kidding me?
It's the light at the end of the tunnel. We are down to the last few minutes, They got to be thinking, oh, what nice. Just like the briefest amount of break.
Yep.
From the onslaught of rain that they've been experiencing for the past 80 or so minutes.
So we're going to let the camera rotate around a little bit, because the on-track action, actually I say that, and it does look like Ryan Beauchene's going to find his way around Anthony Newman and move up into 5th overall in GT4. So Scott Fleming's still in the lead. Tanner Schiffner, Matt Pyle, then Jared Jones, Ryan Beauchene, and Anthony Newman leading the AM category. That is your top 6 in GT4. Paul Miles navigating some GT4 traffic as well.
Keeping that gap between him and Gabe Chavez as wide as he can, is my guess. Because that way he can clinch that the LMP3 AM category championship place that he has got currently, and extend that lead to Gabe Chavez in the overall championship.
Somebody who has done some work, we haven't talked about him a lot, in the 115. Sam Wilson currently in the lead of LMP3 AM. That is going to be a good points haul for Sam. And Sam has had some good results in the few races that I've seen him, or that I've seen from the data so far, because I wasn't here for Navarra. Going to be a good finish for Sam if he can hang on to this. Gian Cardoso had a really good start, kind of after the competition yellow just kind of started to fall apart. But he's going to try and recover. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't say. I think he had a really good drive up until he got really unlucky with the spray and trying to find the line for where he was going into coming out of Dunlop, and that really is what caused him to start having trouble in the overall.
That said, I think that GN will be fine. I think him walking away saying, I've got third in pro in LMP3, finishing sixth overall. I don't think he's going to lose much sleep. But what will make him lose sleep is Mark Hansen's 4 seconds back and gaining.
Yes. Yep, and he looks like a man on a mission to try to take that third podium spot for the LMP3 Pro category. Now that the fight is back on, he had, I think, a pretty rough restart of the race and has been kind of on his own up until Gian followed him as a lapped down car from the main group of LMP3 cars. So be interesting to see if he can make this last. Mark seems like a man on a mission now. The line seems to have dried out at least a little bit with these times.
I mean, he's running pace that's not far off the front two right now. And by the way, fastest lap, Ethan Hamlet with an 18.7. So we are drying out a little bit. And Mark goes a little deep into the hairpin. Going to want to tighten that up. He's got less than 4 minutes to find his way around Gian Cardoso, but it is within the realm of possibility because you can see him up front. That spray is almost gone too.
And he's taken that time down from 4 seconds at the beginning of this lap down to 1.5 here at the backstretch. So definitely plenty of opportunity there for him, which, I mean, it's always good when you see that relative start shrinking down. You got that drive to catch someone in front of you. It's this late in the game. He's got to get locked in and really pick his moments with this GT4 traffic. Otherwise, it will end in disaster.
He is going to try and sneak in, and he does manage to get around going into Casio Triangle. This, I think, without a doubt, and as proven here, has been the nightmare corner of this entire race for pretty much everybody.
I think I've seen all but 2 people at one point or another end up taking the escape and that extra tarmac beyond the corner to not hit somebody or when the tires lock up. I don't think I've seen it. I've seen at least everybody in the race, I think at one point has to utilize that off track area.
Yeah, it has been a tough race with the weather conditions the way they are, but the lap times are starting to drop, and we're starting to see some of these cars come to life with less than 3 minutes. So maybe a little too late for people that had car setups that would have benefited more from mixed conditions. But I thought, all in all, it's been a pretty exciting race, and we're going to hang out for another 2 minutes-ish while this race comes to a close. Ethan Hamlet is 27.6 seconds, and he just set a 17.2. So Ethan is just in the groove, like not feeling much in the way of risk, and starting to let that lap time tumble.
He's finding his pace, and as the track seems to be really starting to dry out with this nice sunny patch we have in kind of the center of this rain that we've had, those times are just, I think, going to keep falling for him as well as I think everybody else, because not far behind him is Jaden, who set a 2:18.085.
Speaking of 18s, this guy, Gabe Chavez, set an 18.4. He is now 7 seconds behind Paul Miles, and he's lapping almost 3 seconds faster than Paul right now. So depending on how this lap goes and how Paul handles traffic and stuff like that, we might even see these two tussle. 15.6 for Ethan Hamlet. It's just ridiculous. I think he's going to get into the 14s before this race is over.
I get that feeling as well, that there very much can be the 214 from Ethan. I'm guessing we'll probably see a couple 215s out of the other GTP pros, but we have, I think, 1 lap for them all to do it in.
Yep. No time like the present, though. And here's Mark Hansen, half second behind Gian Cardoso. So the rain is gone, and now there's nowhere to hide. The true pace of these setups are starting to show themselves in the final stages of this race. And yeah, we are close to the end here.
We are. We
Mark
have white
Hansen.
flag for
Yep.
everyone.
Mark Hansen can smell a podium spot.
Cut that last half a second down in a good, couple well-placed sectors and
This could be
perfectly
it.
timed. It could be.
Gian had a bit of a moment on the exit of Degner 1, and that allowed Mark to close in. Here we go into the hairpin. Is he going to try and send it up the inside? He does not. He's just going to wait a little bit longer. Maybe hope that Gian makes a bit of a mistake. Gian does have a bit of a tail slide out of the hairpin.
I think he's waiting for that perfect opportunity to make the overtake. They are battling as we go down here to Spoon. Too wide. Oh, they try to outbrake themselves, but man,
I think
Mark
that's
makes
going
it
to be
stick.
it.
Yep.
Mark's going to make it stick. In the meantime, somebody who's made it stick to the track the whole way through, Ethan Hamlet, sitting on 0 off tracks.
Does it all while keeping it in the lines. Amazing job.
That is wild. And he's going to take the win here at Suzuka. Jaden Ledbetter coming down the backstretch, not even at 130R yet. Jaden is going to be thinking, Jaden's been all over this race. The LMP3 field has been small, so for him coming out with a second place finish in the overall, he's got to be happy with that result. And it looks like the clouds are back and the rain's starting to fall.
I think our moment of sunshine has come to an end. The weather forecast says there was going to be medium to heavy rain the entire time, with the brief exception of what we got just now. So, but absolute fantastic drive for Jaden. The consistency, I think, is the thing that really helped Ethan get that 30-second lead over him, because realistically, not a huge ton of pace difference between the two of them up until the rain really dried out the track, or the lack of rain dried out the track, and Ethan was able to set down those 2:17s, 2:15 times.
Indeed. Sam Wilson looks like he's going to take the win here in the AM category, and I believe Paul Miles and Gabe Chavez are probably going to hold rank as they come across the line. Waiting for Scott Fleming, who has had a heck of a race, going into Casio Triangle for the last time, currently 4.9 seconds ahead of Tanner Scheffner. So Matt Pyle did clear Anthony Newman. Well, Anthony Newman actually tumbled down the order. He's running 9th now. So it's going to be Fleming, Schiffner, and Pyle for the pro category, and then Sullivan, Lewis, and Blue for the AM.
I wonder if something didn't happen for Anthony Newman, because Anthony was still ahead of Sean Sullivan before we got roped into the final moments of the LMP3 race.
Yep.
And, it'd be interesting to see what happened for him.
Indeed. Just waiting for the remaining cars to come across the line. Matt Pyle probably happy to come away from a wet Suzuka with a 3rd place finish, because if he ends up with a less than desirable wet race, maybe he could end up with a good result and not have to use Suzuka as a drop round.
Definitely. I think it'd be a very, anytime you get a good position like this, really good to lean on it later on if you have another a worse result than a 3rd place podium finish.
There's your race winner, Ethan Hamlet, in the Track Limits Racing LMP3, taking another win this season. Dominant force. Don't know if anyone's really got anything up their sleeve for Ethan. And somebody else, like, we don't talk about him to the same level of dominance that Ethan Hamlet currently holds over LMP3, but Scott Fleming really has dominated GT4. Like, he has been a force in every round that he's been in. And just interested to see how the rest of Scott's season works out and whether or not anybody else in the pro category of GT4 has got something in store for him.
Absolutely. Back-to-back wins at this point, coming off of round 2 at Navarra, also winning there. He's going to go. I think he's got the potential to definitely contend with Stephen Wallace for the championship title in the GT4 Pro category.
Indeed. So, Stephen Wallace, you're on notice. Scott's coming for you. It's going to be fun to watch this fight work its way out through the rest of the season. In the meantime, let's switch over to that scenic camera and pull up those race results. Let's get, those are qualifying. Let's pull up the race results for LMP3. Yep, there's your leader, Ethan Hamlet, with the win, 30 seconds ahead of Jaden Ledbetter, who comes away with a second-place finish. I think he's going to be happy with that. And then you got AMs in 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Mark Hansen did sneak on to the podium for Pro. Gian Cardoso finishing with 4th. He's going to love just taking home the points.
Absolutely.
And then in AM category, Sam Wilson continuing to impress. And the battle between Paul Miles and Gabe Chavez. Actually, I'm seeing Gabe finished ahead of Paul. Wonder what happened there, because they were not close. That'll be interesting to see. But so that is going to make the AM category of LMP3 pretty spicy, indeed. Let's take a look at those GT4 runners. In your pro positions, we've got Scott Fleming, Tanner Schiffner, Matt Powell. We've already talked about them. Again, kind of a showing of those folks that we were kind of expecting. Jared Jones keeping it close with 4th. Ryan Beauchene still in it as well. Sean Sullivan getting an amazing points haul in the AM category. William Lewis in 2nd, and then Christopher Blue in 3rd. Christopher Blue coming off of that win at Navarra. 3rd place finish is going to be a good points haul. But yeah, that was round 3. Suzuka. Where are we going next time?
If I remember correctly, we'll be heading over to Oulton Park next weekend. We have a doubleheader here. Not in the rain. Just gonna be a nice, easy day race. So all the craziness we got this week, we won't have it for next week. It'll be much simpler. But going over to Oulton Park, hopping across another pond. I guess it depends on which way you go. We're not hopping over any ponds. We're just going from one end of the one coast to another.
Indeed. And the international layout without Britons at Oulton Park, that's going to be interesting. It's going to be a bit of a faster Oulton Park, but that is going to be a very tight circuit for multi-class. But the thing is, I love that sort of thing. I'm like, people are like, I only want to race on tracks where I can pass. I'm like, no. Racing's supposed to be difficult. Let's put us on the narrowest strip of tarmac we can find. But Oulton Park, I think it's going to be interesting.
I think it'll be a big track for capitalizing on passing opportunities and knowing when to pass and when to just simply wait and allow traffic to be, because otherwise it'll turn into chaos. And I think we'll have patience will be a key piece there on top of consistency and pace.
Indeed. And I think pit stops are going to be the order of the day at Oulton Park. Mark my words. Write it down. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But round 3 is in the books. Finn, thank you so much for being a part of the show this time. It's been an absolute blast having you. And looking forward to the race, which is next week, if I'm correct, on October 12th. So if you're interested at all, please come back next Saturday and check us out. Round 4, Oulton Park, Track Limits Racing, Sports Car Series moves on. I've seen some people in chat posting about how they're just happy that they finished. It was a tough race, but it was a good one, and it was a lot of fun to watch. From everyone here at Track Limits Racing, we hope you all have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next week at Oulton Park. See you later, guys.